Nice. That's one of them new Ben Franklins you count there, baby pop.
You don't stop.
Gotta get that money.
You don't stop.
Oh, man, this is how we do it. East, west.
What up, people in the truck? So today's topic is going to be the difference between having baggage and having experience, or referring to experience versus carrying baggage. So I felt like this was a good thing to discuss and talk about today, just because a lot of people kind of blend the two or mesh the two together. Of course, they're completely different. They're not the same. You know, when somebody's talking about a past experience, whether it be good or bad, but in this case, more so talking about maybe a bad experience or something that they went through that was unpleasant and they talk about it. Sometimes it's hard to decipher or distinguish whether or not they're speaking from a place of experience versus a place of having baggage or being scarred or carrying around, you know, past pain or hurt or something like that. You know, now of course our different experiences and specific things that happen to each person in their lives, they mold us, you know, and they teach us certain things and they build different realities for different people. So at the end of the day, when you boil it all down, everything has subjective matter to it. But just because it could be subjective or it could be someone's specific opinion or perspective doesn't automatically make it null and void or baggage, if you will. So the best way to decipher if something is experience or if something is baggage, as you know, like let's say we're talking about a topic of running a race or something like that, and you got somebody that tells you like, oh yeah, man, like when you run that 400, like you're gonna cramp up on that first curve, and by the time, you know, you get to the back stretch, like your calf muscles are gonna give out on you, and you're gonna have a shortness of breath before you even get around the half of the track. You know, now that would be considered baggage, because when we talk about having baggage, the one thing that you can tell about baggage, or how you can immediately pick up on baggage, is when they start to talk about something specific. So that's going to be your number one indicator as to whether they're talking about something in terms of having baggage or past pain or unhurt things or whatever. Now, of course, we're talking about running a race and track and field or something like that. So if this is not on a serious, deep, emotional topic, but that was just an example. Now, if we talk about that same race or something, and somebody says like, yeah, man, like running the 400, it's going to be something like, you know, a sprint the whole way, and somewhere within the race, you're probably going to get tired just because the body is going to build up lactic acid, and, you know, your hip areas and somewhere in your lower body is probably going to start to tighten up. It's just something you really can't control just because of the nature of the race. Now, something like that, they're speaking from experience. So they're not telling you specifically what's going to happen, or they're not saying like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to say this, you're going to say that. But they're just saying like, hey, man, based on experience, I know that this is what comes with the territory. All right. So a lot of people get those things confused and mixed up when they're listening to people talk about something, or they're listening to somebody tell their personal story or their personal perspective or their personal outlook, which of course, like I already mentioned, is going to be subjective, because we all have been through different things that create different realities for everyone in a specific way. But a good way to distinguish whether or not someone's coming from this hurt and burdened place versus if they're just telling like, hey man, like I don't know it all, but I know how this goes, I know how this works. You know, the biggest thing that you can really pinpoint and know if they're coming from a neutral place or from a burdened and negative and pessimistic place is whether or not they're referring to their experience, or they're trying to convey something to you in specific terms versus neutral and objective terms. So I'm not gonna make this video super long. Just kind of take this concept and build this into your thought patterns, and I guess more of like your cognitive awareness when you're dealing with people, especially when it comes to talks about relationships or talks about your value system or anything like that. Because, you know, a lot of things that I tell people, especially when I'm talking to women just about relationships or my experience or telling somebody about my childhood or just whatever, be like, oh man, like, you know, you still may be hurt from that, or, you know, maybe you don't want to deal with relationships anymore because you have a bad taste in your mouth. I'm just like, nah, man, like, I'm still open. You know, I'm good. I'm not burdened by anything. It's just that I've been through enough to understand what takes place or what's inevitable or what goes down, or when this thing happens, you know, you're going to experience this type of thing on the back end or moving forward, or the type of environment you create when you do certain shit and when you don't do certain shit, or just whatever, you know. So I try to always come from a place of being objective, even though, of course, a lot of that has, you know, been cultivated or manifest, or whatever nerd word you want to use, due to my own subjective experience. But I'm not coming from a place where like, oh, well, if we do this, then you're going to do that, or you're going to say this, or this will happen. I'm not putting that on anybody. I'm just saying, like, hey man, I'm just well aware that when this type of thing goes down, these types of things are bound to follow, or have a very high chance to follow, or have a very high chance of being done or not being done, like I just said. So remember that when it comes to speaking from a place of experience and mastery, you talk in terms of neutral, just more so just know-how and a deeper awareness of exactly how something works from a fundamental level. When you're speaking from a place of being highly opinionated, or maybe burdened or hurt or still not over something, you come from a place of working within super specifics and being super detailed about your points, and you kind of project specific actions and thoughts and emotions onto situations and certain things that may not exist for your new situation, or for your new person, or for your new concept or job, or whoever you're dealing with, you know. So fundamentals would be coming from a place of experience, and then specifics would be coming from a place of having baggage. So take that with you, try to implement that as best as you can. I'll be making future videos, slightly longer videos. Want to always try to keep these intro videos or starter videos under 10 minutes, just because that's the goal for that. Don't want to get into super detail and have somebody watching the 30-minute video. So peace.